What is this? So last week was our big family vacation at Disneyland, and while the kids were amazed with all of the characters, the adults were amazed with all of the theming and high prices, I couldn't help but be just a little bit surprised by how hard they're still pushing The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is kind of wild when you think about the fact that this movie came out all the way in 1993, and outside of a couple of re-releases and Hot Topic outfits, Disney really hasn't done all that much with it. Meanwhile,
at Thanksgiving, we revisit another fan favorite with Disenchanted, Haunted Mansion, a live-action reimagining of none other than Snow White.
Cool. But somehow, the creative forces of Tim Burton, Danny Elfman, and Disney marketing couldn't get it together to make a sequel, or a TV show, or anything. Or could they? According to director Henry Selick, discussions around returning to the world of The Nightmare Before Christmas were being had around 2001, but Disney insisted that it would all have to be done using computer animation rather than the stop-motion style from the first film. Thankfully, that was a no-go. So with the movie off the table, but a hot property still burning a hole in Disney's pocket, where would it make sense for the further adventures of Jack Skellington to continue? Now again, this was the early 2000s, and a couple of devices called the PlayStation 2 and Xbox were taking the entertainment world by storm. For the first time ever, video games were able to achieve a level of storytelling and immersion that rivaled the cinema experience, and mainstream audiences were responding. Of course, movie studios had long licensed out their properties for cheap marketing tie-ins, but now they could do something interesting. You know those Matrix sequels? How about playing through an original side story with brand new footage from the original filmmakers and enter the Matrix?
Actions that take place in the game that you move through and play affect the film plot.
So with all this going on in the marketplace, it's easy to see why Disney would want to ride the wave and continue with the Nightmare Before Christmas sequel, but in the form of a video game.
Santa's getting snagged. The Easter Bunny's getting kidnapped. Evil is stealing away all the holiday leaders and taking over. Now only Jack Skellington has the power to bring them back. Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, Oogie's Revenge, the video game.
The Nightmare Before Christmas, Oogie's Revenge arrived in North America in 2005 and was developed by Capcom of all places. A bit of background for the non-gamers out there. Capcom is a legendary Japanese game developer known for early hits like Street Fighter and Mega Man, but then later for its more mature titles like Resident Evil and Devil May Cry. But enough about all of that. How about the actual game? Is it any good? Does it live up to the original Nightmare Before Christmas? What exactly is Oogie's Revenge? Things start out 1 year after the end of the movie, with Jack Skellington once again feeling the need to spice things up around Halloween Town. He talks it over with Dr. Finkelstein, who gives Jack this bright green booger whip, basically your main weapon throughout the game, and sends him out to the larger world in search of new scares for next Halloween. While away, Lock, Shock, and Barrel decide that now is as good a time as any to resurrect Oogie Boogie so that he can take revenge for the events from the movie. Sally overhears this plan and is able to send a letter warning Jack, all before he returns to Halloween Town on the eve of Christmas Eve. Now, right from the jump, it's immediately impressive just how much effort Oogie's Revenge is putting into emulating that Nightmare Before Christmas feeling. Everything looks and sounds about right. Tim Burton and the artists from the film were consulted with. Most of the original cast is here. They even make an attempt to incorporate big musical segments with the help of a handful of songs created specifically for this game.
But Oogie is the king, we get away with everything! You cannot call this for our friends, the new people be recognised!
Don't be foolish! Think now all this danger isn't fun and games when this town is back to normal? Do you really want the blame?
Are these segments or songs any good? Meh. pretty much all just boils down to a button timing minigame set to songs that you've heard 1,000 times already or sound just close enough to them, but it all gets the job done. The rest of the gameplay is really just a basic beat 'em up. You'll spend 99% of your time whipping skeletons, ghosts, blue skeletons, red ghosts, yellow skeletons, the occasional boss, you know what I'm talking about here. Every once in a while you have the opportunity to change into one of Jack's other costumes from the movie, but does it fundamentally change anything? Not really. Also not fundamentally changing anything is the story, which, like everything else, is fine, but really isn't much more than a cheap and easy conveyor belt of nostalgia. Sounds pretty familiar when it comes to Disney.
Hello, Pops!
Attempting to get his revenge, Oogie Boogie kidnaps the doorways and figureheads of all of the other holiday worlds that were hinted at in that one scene from The Nightmare Before Christmas. Which, okay, is pretty much what every single person that's interested in a sequel here is interested in. You've already hinted that all these other holiday-themed lands exist. A video game sure seems like the perfect medium to explore all of this. I mean, a whole level dedicated to St. Patrick's Day? Can you imagine? But no. Most of the game just takes place throughout areas of Halloween Town, sometimes in places that you've already seen in the movie, sometimes in a brand new area that still looks pretty familiar, and these areas all look great and fit perfectly with the film. It's just that over time they all start to blend in together. The one time we do travel to a different area, it's Christmas Town. And not a reworked and expanded upon vision where interesting things are going on, it's pretty much what we've already seen before. In the end, Jack defeats Oogie Boogie's final form, rescues the leaders of each holiday town, and reseals them behind their matching doors. It's at this point that the story takes a wildly bold turn and I'm just fooling. It ends exactly the same way as the movie did. So yeah, The Nightmare Before Christmas Oogie's Revenge is the kind of sequel that leans almost entirely on nostalgia. And as you're going through it, you'll swear you've pretty much seen it all before. Of course, a lot of what you're seeing is beautiful and clearly a love letter to the original film. It's not that it's bad, it's just very been there, done that. Nice to look at, fun to play for a bit, but it barely has any kind of story that could be considered a sequel. But wait! There's more! Believe it or not, this isn't the only narrative expanding game for Nightmare Before Christmas that came out in 2005. On the very same day that Oogie's Revenge dropped on PlayStation 2 and Xbox, A Nightmare Before Christmas: The Pumpkin King arrived on Game Boy Advance. This one is actually a prequel and tells the story of Jack's first run-in with Oogie Boogie and how he becomes the Pumpkin King. Set 1 year before the events in the film, Jack Skellington learns that Oogie Boogie has infested the town with bugs, hoping to turn Halloween Town to Bug Town. He sets off to stop him, and along the way, rescues some familiar townspeople, saves Sally, and defeats Oogie, becoming the one true Pumpkin King in the process. Just like Oogie's Revenge, the story here is really just an excuse to revisit the characters and locations in the film. Are you really all that curious about how Jack got the title of the Pumpkin King? Or how he met Sally? Probably not. Is that a bad thing? Not really. But it does feel a little heavy-handed to call this thing a legitimate prequel to A Nightmare Before Christmas. And really, that's what we're getting with Oogie's Revenge and the Pumpkin King. Nice to look at, but just okay to play nostalgia trips that don't really add all that much to the Nightmare Before Christmas universe. Honestly, you're better off with the Jack Skellington segments from Kingdom Hearts.
What would you like? Just name it. Absolutely anything.
The nicest present I could ever ask for, Jack, is just to be with you.
You don't even have to ask for that.
Oh!
You know what? Just stick with the original movie.